Here we go. So hi, welcome. My name is Laura. I run content for operations mostly now for Auggie. And as parents, keeping our kids safe is our top priority, but car seat safety is an area where small mistakes can have major consequences. So the good news is we've brought in Brittany from Babyark, and most of these mistakes are completely preventable. And once you know what to, especially once you know what to look for. Babyark is a company leading the way in next level car seat technology, and we're going to break down the biggest mistakes parents have made, how to fix them in seconds, and what you need to know before your next big trip in the car. So, without further ado, I will punt it over to Brittany.
Hi, everybody. So, like Laura said, I'm Brittany. I am the CPST Child Passenger Safety Technician Advocate for Babyark. So, if you are on our social channels at Get Babyark or mine at Babyark CPST, you'll see me. You'll see my face around, giving you all those car seat safety tips. Really excited to talk to you all today.
Amazing. So, if everybody wants to let us know where you're calling in from, how old your kids are, that's very helpful usually. And then if there's any questions that you have, feel free to put them in the chat. I'll be monitoring the chat as we have our conversation. And if something comes up that's relevant, I will stop Brittany and we can kind of go from there. So, um, studies show that nearly 66% of car seats are misused. That's a crazy stat. What are some of the most common mistakes you see parents make, Brittany?
It's a really good question. And yeah, 66%, you're like, oh my gosh, that can't possibly be true. But the
Right.
thing is that I think the other stat is that something like 70% of people think that they're doing it right. So they've got a lot of really confident people making mistakes, and that's normal, especially for something that can be complex, like a car seat.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so I totally get that. In addition to, being the advocate at Babyark, I do work in my local community. I participate in car seat checks, like once or twice a month here. I'm up in the Seattle area, so if anybody's calling in from there, hello, I am your neighbor. It is rainy today. But, what I typically see and what a lot of CPSTs see across the country is that everything is just too loose. So from the installation to the harness, it's just too loose. I think caregivers really underestimate how tight and snug we want everything to be. We really want to get all that slack out of the installation, get all that slack out of the harness, because that's going to really help the car seat perform as intended in a crash.
Hmm.
So our top five, if I know people love a top five list, I love a top five
Hmm.
list. Our top five installation misuses, according to our national data, is an installation that's too loose. So it's moving more than an inch front to back or side to side. When you're giving it a little handshake at the belt path, right? Installing the car seat using both the seat belt, the vehicle seat belt, and latch, the lower anchors. Most car seats on the market don't allow that. Babyark does, but we're only one of three. Um, so that's a big misuse that we'll see. Um, a harness that's too loose doesn't pass the pinch test here at the shoulder. Harness straps being at the wrong height. So when your child is rear facing, they want to be at or just below the level of their shoulders. When they're forward facing, they want to be at or just above the level of their shoulders. So that's something that we'll see that's not quite right. A lot of the times we'll see those rear facing kids come in with the harness straps, coming out like this from the car seat shell. So we always fix that. And then the fifth most common misuse is that seatbelt, the vehicle seatbelt, not being locked at the retractor when it has to be for a secure installation. Of course, we see plenty of other, things that go wrong, and that's okay.
Sure.
But those are the big most common ones.
Interesting. Can you talk a little more about the seatbelt and the latch, like why that is a misuse?
Sure.
I think that's
Yeah.
a big
So
question everybody has.
I know, and you know what? Most caregivers are thinking to themselves, well, if one is good, then two is better, right? Like, why would
Definitely.
we not want to do both?
Mhm.
The short answer is that most car seat manufacturers don't test the car seat that way. So crash testing, as you guys probably know, is really important, right? That's how we find out whether the car seat will perform the way we want it to in a crash.
Mhm.
So if the manufacturer hasn't crash tested it using the lower anchors and the seatbelt together, they don't know how it might perform, right? So they can't encourage caregivers to use that installation method. So at Babyark, we do use rigid lower anchors and the vehicle seatbelt together as part of our recommended installation. We have crash tested it that way.
Mhm.
So we say that is okay to do. But something to consider beyond that is not only does the car seat have to say it's okay, but your vehicle also has to not prohibit it, right? And I say it that way on purpose. Most car manuals don't really say anything
Mhm.
specific. A couple will say, yeah, you can use both at the same time. And there are a few vehicle manufacturers that say you can't use both at the same time, right? So you always want to check both manuals, right? Check your car seat manual and then check your vehicle manual. And I think that's kind of one that most caregivers aren't aware of, that there is
Mhm.
actually in your vehicle manual a child passenger safety section.
Wow. Yeah. All things I'm so glad that I get to moderate this event. There's all things I did not know.
You're going to go home and
Uh,
start reading all your manuals.
yeah, now I'm gonna be like, okay, hold on, girls. Okay, so for car seat installation, kind of walk me through what are the most important steps parents need to get it right. And I don't know if you want to start with like, a baby, an infant car seat and then kind of go because I think a lot of our parents have probably a convertible car seat, but
Sure, yeah.
would love to hear about everything.
Yeah, so the biggest thing that a caregiver can do when they're installing their car seat is read the manual. I know that that is like the most boring advice and it's not a mom hack or whatever,
Hmm.
but it's sometimes there's no shortcut. You need to read the manual to make sure that you're installing the car seat correctly. Now, at Baby Ark, we're trying to reach those folks who are maybe not going to read their manuals or they've read
Hmm.
it, but they need a little extra guidance, which is totally fine. Everybody learns differently, and we do for our smart seats, we do have an app that will literally guide you step by step through it. And I know a lot of other manufacturers are coming out with like QR codes that you can scan it and a video will pop up and show somebody
That's
installing
cool.
the car seat.
Hmm.
So, the technology we're pushing, we're leading the way, but the technology
Hmm.
is slowly getting there. So, like Laura and I were talking about before we started the webinar, she watched a lot of videos when she was installing her car seats for the first time.
Hmm.
That's okay. No shame in that. Read the manual, watch the videos, use our app if you have a Baby Ark, get that help. And if all of those things fail, or if you're like, I just need a person to tell me what to do, which like, I get that.
Hmm.
Find a local CPST, call up the car seat manufacturer. We are happy to walk you through that process, judgment free. We have all been there. We're
Hmm.
happy to help you. So that's my biggest advice is read the manual, watch the videos, call the manufacturer, find a local CPST to help you.
Hmm.
Because all car seats install in different ways. There are car seats that prefer to be installed with the vehicle seat belt, that, you might be installing with lower anchors. If it's forward facing, you got to find that top tether. Like there's all different methods for installation. Sometimes a car
Hmm.
seat will have a built-in lock off, something that locks the seatbelt for you. So that's why, there's not like, oh, these are the 5 steps to install every car seat. I wish that that existed,
Right.
but unfortunately, they're all 5 different steps. So
Do you have like a magic, "Oh, this is secure," like, type of feeling or something you could
yeah,
kind of explain to everybody?
yes, absolutely. So what we call that is the handshake test. Some people
Okay.
call it the inch test.
Mhm.
So when you install your car seat, whether you're installing it rear facing, forward facing, with the lower anchors, with the vehicle seat belt, whichever, you want to put your hand on that car seat near the belt path. That's just where either the vehicle seat belt or those lower anchor straps are going
Mhm.
through the car seat shell. So if it's forward facing, it's usually toward the back of the shell, and if it's rear
Mhm.
facing, it's toward the feet. Put your hand right there near that belt path and give it a little handshake, like the force of a regular human handshake, not like the Hulk, right? Like so,
Yeah, right.
a regular handshake at the belt
Ah!
path.
Yeah, yeah,
Exactly. I have
yeah.
had, and I hate to stereotype, but it's always dads, like always,
They
they'll
just
come
wanna
over
make
and
sure
they'll
it's
be like,
in properly. That's yeah, right, right.
I'm like, sir, I'm very concerned about how you shake hands, like very concerned.
Yeah, right.
Um, but so just put it right there at the belt path, give it a little
Mhm.
handshake. It shouldn't move more than an inch front to back or side to side. And an
Okay.
inch is, an inch,
Yeah.
right? If it's moving less than that on the vehicle seat, it's installed correctly. That's okay. It doesn't have to
Mhm.
be shaking your whole vehicle. It doesn't have to be welded to the frame. Just has to be moving less than an inch, okay? And I see somebody popped up here with a question, how often should you be checking that your car seat is installed correctly? It's an excellent question.
Mm.
Um, there's no like real guideline on this, but it's possible that, with weather shifts, especially, things expand, things contract. Your kid's getting in and out of the seat every day. Maybe they're pulling themselves up on it. Things can loosen. Um, every so often, just give it a little handshake test.
Mhm.
Maybe a couple times a month, you just give it a little wiggle, or you notice that your kid's climbing in and it seems to be moving more than it should. Give it a little wiggle, give it a little test. But I love
Mhm.
that thinking. That's a really good question.
Yeah. Okay, so talk to us a little bit about harnessing and positioning. It
Sure.
seems like one of the biggest risks in a crash is the child not being secured properly. So, if you could demonstrate what proper harness tightness is, the chest clip, and
Sure.
seat positioning, just for a
Yep.
visual, that I think that would be very helpful.
Absolutely, no problem. Because, we know that using any car seat correctly is extremely protective. It really is. Like using that car seat correctly is protective of that child in a survivable crash. But yes,
Mhm.
the key is making sure that it is being used correctly. So just I'm going to move my chair here.
Okay,
Whoop. And I'm going to grab one of my car seat dolls and I'm going to do a little demo for you guys and I'll talk you through what I'm doing while I do it, okay?
perfect.
So I'm gonna purposefully misset the harness on purpose here. Okay, so first of all, I just wanted to point out this, which is so great. So the Babyark has harness magnet
Wow,
holders
game
that hold
changer.
they hold the whole harness up. A lot of the times I'll see the buckle tongue holders over here at the
Mhm.
sides, but it doesn't hold the whole harness up. So this is really nice. You don't have to dig around. We have this flop forward crotch buckle, which is really nice. So you're not fishing that out from under their bottom, which we're all doing, right?
Yep.
So makes a really good, clean target to get our kid in there. So when you're
Definitely.
placing your child in the car seat or when they're getting in themselves, you want to make sure that their bottom is flat on the bottom of the car seat and their back is flat against the back of the car seat. So we don't want slouch like this, right?
Mhm.
We want sitting up nice and straight and tall, butt flat, back flat, okay? Neck, and I'm pretending that this is a forward-facing kid, obviously, for those
Yeah.
purposes. So when we have our harness straps, we want those going over the shoulders, right? And we want to make sure, just like I talked about earlier, that the harness straps are coming out at or just above the shoulder height for a forward-facing kid. So when I trace my hand back here, you can see it's going down into the car seat, right? These harness straps are too low for a forward-facing kid. So I'm gonna use our little adjuster handle here, pull that up so that now when I trace my hand back, I know it's hard to see because it's kind of a weird thing to show, but now when I trace my hand back, that webbing is coming from just a tiny bit above her shoulder height, okay? So that's a really important adjustment, and especially because kids like grow overnight. So this is definitely something to check as you're putting your kid in their car seat and making sure that it's still at the right position, okay? All right, so next up, we're gonna do up our crotch buckle. Click there, and we can also do up our chest clip, and I'll talk more about the positioning of that in just a minute.
Okay.
This is where I often will see caregivers kind of skip a step unintentionally. So they'll get to this position, buckled up, chest clip done, and then they'll take this harness adjuster tab and they'll just pull it snug. And they'll be like, okay. And sometimes they'll even go ahead and do the pinch test right here at the shoulder and be like, it's snug, everything is great. But what they're missing is that down here at the hips, there's a lot
Mm.
of slack still.
Mhm.
And that didn't come out just because of how like 5-point harnesses are designed. Like that's how they work. Just pulling that harness adjuster strap isn't going to get all of the slack out. So I'm going to show you what I do for my kids every time I harness both of them. And this is what I teach to anybody that I do a seat check with. So I take my hand, put it between their body and the harness straps, and then I pull up. And you can kind of see how all of that slack came right out of
Oh,
their hips.
yeah. Yeah,
And
yeah,
then
yeah.
while I'm holding this up like this, then I grab the harness adjuster strap and then I pull it snug. Okay. And then I make sure that the chest clip is at armpit level, right? So now it's nice and flat and tight around their hips,
Mhm.
chest clip at armpit level, and I can't pinch a fold in the harness webbing here at their shoulder. Those are the three
We
things.
had a question come in, how tight is too tight?
Another really good question, and I get that one a lot. I work a lot with expectant parents or parents of
Mhm.
newborns check events that I do locally. So I get that question all the time. Um, you don't, of course, you don't want that harness to be like really digging into your child. You don't want them it to be like pushing their body into an unnatural position. But a lot of caregivers are worried, like, how do I know if I've done that, right? Especially if your
Mhm.
kid is young to make words, right? So
Sure.
something that we can do is called the reverse pinch test. So what you would do is you'd get the harness like, pretty tight, like most of the way tight. And then you go over here to their shoulder and you do the pinch test and you pinch that fold in the webbing and then you pull the adjuster strap until it falls out of your fingers.
Okay.
That's tight enough, right? You took
Mhm.
out a little bit of extra slack and now it's tight enough without being too tight. Does that make sense,
Yeah.
hopefully?
Yeah, that makes total sense. Yeah.
Yeah,
No,
so it's a good way to kind
that
of double check yourself.
Mhm. Can you talk to us about coats? And
Yes,
do you recommend no
absolutely.
coats, or because I live in Chicago, and I'll be honest, like there are some days where like it is just too cold for them to go in the car, coatless. But yeah, I would love to know what your thoughts are on coats and in the
Absolutely.
car seat.
Happy to give my thoughts. So yes, your instincts are right that we don't want anything puffy or bulky between the child and those harness straps because what
Mhm.
can happen is all of that puffy, bulky material will immediately um, kind of squish down in a crash. And suddenly that harness that felt tight now has a whole bunch of room in it for their bodies to move around. And we don't want that to
Mm.
happen. So the best practice, right, is to just have long, light layers. So like a long sleeve tee, a close fitting fleece, right? A sweatshirt that's close fitting, that's not like super baggy hand me down from their like older sibling. Those things are okay to wear under the harness. We just
Okay.
don't want something big and puffy. Generally
Hmm.
speaking, they need a coat to get out to the car. Obviously, do what you need to do. They're
Hmm.
your kids, keep them safe. But once you get to the car, take that big puffy coat off, get them nice and snugly harnessed, and then you can put blankets or the coat over top of them after they've been
Hmm.
harnessed.
Okay. And that's true for every car seat, every kid, every
Every car
age.
seat, every kid. That's true for adults too, actually. Right?
Interesting.
So
Yes.
when
I mean,
you're
that makes
in
sense,
your
obviously.
vehicle, right, and you're wearing that big puffy down coat that you have for Chicago winters,
Hmm.
and then you fasten your seatbelt across your lap, which is full of puffy down, when that car stops, it's going to take you extra time to stop because there's all that puff between you and your seatbelt. So
Hmm.
sometimes what I'll do if it is really cold, because it does get pretty cold in Seattle, not Chicago
Yeah.
cold, pretty cold,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
is I will kind of open my coat, like make
Hmm.
sure it's not zipped all the way up, push it to the sides, and then make sure my
Oh.
seatbelt is nice and tight around my hips, right? So, and then tight on my body. So I don't have to take it
Hmm.
all the way off. It's a little bit of a cheat. We should really be taking it all the way off, but I know sometimes it's just not practical in the morning.
Right.
Um,
Right.
but yes. So
Definitely.
just something to keep in mind for your own safety.
Okay. I will get back to where our run of show in a second. I do have one more question because I know we have a couple expecting parents on the call.
Yeah.
Car seat safety for just, or not car seat, a seatbelt safety for a pregnant bump. What are
Oh,
your,
that's such a good one. Such a good one.
um,
There is actually a great website. Forgive me for 1 second because I'm going to try and.
no, don't say forgive me. I'm going off the cuff. I just know that this is a
Sure.
question that a lot of parents
Okay.
have.
So I'm going to put this link in the chat here. There is a great resource for how to wear your seatbelt safely when you are pregnant.
Hmm.
Um, I have met the one of the people that's behind this organization, the Hudson Center for Prenatal Vehicle Safety. Um, personally at conferences. He is a great guy.
Oh,
Greg, love
amazing.
him,
Yeah.
super knowledgeable. But anyways, this will show you exactly how you should be wearing it, right? And we want to make sure we're wearing it under the bump,
Mhm.
right? Not on top, not here, underneath your bump, so it's nice and close to your hip bones. Maybe I
Mhm.
can stand up and be a person, like right, so it's right here. So under your
Yeah.
bump, close to your hip bones. And when you still want that, your shoulder belt to be coming across your body like this.
Mhm.
So take a look. I dropped that link in the chat, how to wear your seatbelt safely during pregnancy. But that's a really, really great resource, Hudson Center
Perfect.
for Prenatal Vehicle Safety.
Amazing. Thank you.
Yeah.
Um, okay, so choosing the right car seat is the
Hmm.
next kind of the next row of questions that we have. So from infant seats to boosters, how do you know when it's time to transition? And would love to hear what Babyark has to offer also. So for booster
Yeah.
seats, forward facing, rear facing, everything like that.
Of course. This is such a good question. And it's, again, one that we get all the time from caregivers, especially expectant parents who are just kind of like, what's coming at me? I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
So, kids, first of all, are going to be in car seats or boosters for much longer than most people imagine. A lot of people think, like, oh, well, maybe around like 6 years old, they can just be fine with a seatbelt. Um, Most kids are going to need a booster of some kind until they're probably 11 or 12 years old. So just get that in
Wow.
your brain right now, get
Yeah.
ready to go. And the reason for that, because then people look at me and they're like, oh, okay. But the reason for that is that if you think about it, seatbelts are made and crash tested for adult humans, right? And
Mm-hmm.
kids are not just small adults. Even for those kids that might be the same height or weight as an adult person,
Mm-hmm.
their bones are still not the right age. So as
Mm-hmm.
kids grow, their bones harden, and they even form different things on them. So like right here at your hips as an adult, you have a little notch on your pelvis, which is
Mm-hmm.
what keeps that lat part of the belt positioned correctly in a crash. Kids that are pre-puberty don't have that notch, that little, I think it's
Interesting.
called the iliac crest. They don't have
Mm-hmm.
that. So the seatbelt will kind of just slide up their body, right? So the
Mm-hmm.
booster, you guys have all seen the boosters. They have those little arm rests. They're not just
Mm-hmm.
for resting your arms. They're mimicking that iliac crest to help keep that seatbelt where it's supposed to be. So that's my
Wow.
little nerdy tangent there. But let's go
Yeah.
back to the beginning because
No,
I feel like most
that was a
people are.
good that was a good little ditty. I like that.
So for let's go back, we'll go back to the start, right? So your child will need a car seat from day one, right, to get them
Hmm.
home from the hospital, assuming you're driving home from the hospital. Um, and that car seat can either be an infant seat, one of the ones that has like the carrier handle, it only rear faces, or you can use something like the Babyark, which is a convertible car seat. It converts from rear to forward facing. Okay. And there's also, all-in-ones,
Hmm.
multi-mode, right? All of those will convert from rear facing to forward facing. All right. Um, a lot of folks will use an infant only, like that infant car seat with the handle. They'll probably use that for anywhere from like 8 to 12 months, I would guess.
Hmm.
Um, Most of the time, people stop using it because baby gets heavy and you don't want to be carrying around the baby and the car seat, and they're
Hmm.
crawling now and it's just too much. So they're like, oh, we're just going to switch to the convertible. That's fine. There's no
Hmm.
like, oh, they have to hit a certain limit. The only thing that they have to do is reach the weight limit for that convertible car seat, right? Most of them go from like 4, 5, 6 pounds. There are a few
Hmm.
on the market that are toddler seats that they have to weigh a certain amount more to be in them. But anyway, so that's not a huge deal. There's no hard and fast rule on moving from the infant car seat to the rear-facing convertible. As far as switching from, I just saw this question come in from switching from rear to forward facing. Again, that's a really common question. Um, so I want to talk about this concept of good, better, best. Okay, I think this is really important, and it's something that's kind of lost right now in that car seat safety discourse online. So, good, better, best is how CPSTs like me are trained to approach all situations about car seat safety. not everybody can do this like gold star, best practice. I'm rear facing my kid to 50 pounds like the Babyark does, right?
Mhm.
For any number of reasons, right? There could be any number of reasons why they can't do that. Um, so there are other ways that you can, safely restrain your child. So let's just talk about that really, really quick. Now we want to make sure that we are rear facing them at least until you meet your state law, which is different all across the country.
Mhm.
Sometimes there is no law. Sometimes it's 1 year old, sometimes it's 2 years old. And we want to make sure we're also rear facing them until they reach the at least the minimum forward facing weight limit or age limit for that car seat or height limit, right? So for the Babyark, it's 26 and a half pounds. They have to be at least 26 and a half pounds, at least 1 year old, and I think at least 30 inches to forward face. Okay.
Okay.
So if we see somebody who has, so let's say it's Washington State here. Our state law is that you have to rear face until they're 2 years old. So if I have somebody come to a seat check with a Babyark and they have a 2 year old who is 28 pounds, 31 inches, then, and they're like, I'm not interested in rear facing anymore. It's legal and it's met the manufacturer requirements. That is what I would call good, right? They have
Yeah.
met the law,
Mhm.
they've met the minimum requirements. That's good. At
Mhm.
that point, I'd probably ask them if they were open to some more additional information about why we recommend to rear face longer. And the reason for that is that, toddlers and babies have really big heads compared to the size of their necks. And when you're forward facing in a crash, everything kind of whips forward,
Mhm.
right? So when younger kids are forward facing, their big heads can put a lot of pressure on their neck in that moment, and that can cause
Mhm.
additional injuries. When they're rear facing, they just kind of woo ride back with the car seat. It's cradling their head, their neck, and their spine, and the crash forces are getting distributed mostly in the car seat shell instead. So that's the information I would give them. And then, but ultimately the decision is up to the caregiver, right? So that's good.
Right.
They've met the state law, they've met the minimums. Now, maybe I'll have somebody roll in that has a 3 year old and maybe they're 35 pounds or something like that. And they're like, I'm ready to forward face my child.
Mhm.
That's okay. They're doing what I would call better, right? So
Mhm.
they've exceeded their state's requirements, they've exceeded the manufacturer's requirements. They haven't, quite gotten to the maximums, but they've exceeded good, and now they're at better, right? They did a really
Mhm.
good job, and that's what I would tell them. If you come into a C check with me and you have a 3.5 year old rear facing, you did a great job. Well done,
Mhm.
right? And then best would be following all of the gold star best practices, which is from the American Academy of Pediatrics, keeping your child rear facing for as long as possible or until they reach the maximum height or weight of the rear facing mode of their convertible car seat. So until they reach 50 pounds or 49 inches for the Babyark, right? So if somebody rolls into my check and their kid's like 51 pounds, right? Then I'll be
Mhm.
like, okay, you did it. You did best practice. Now we have to turn your kid around forward facing. You did great, right? So that's what I like to think about. And I want to make sure that I'm always putting that out there as like, yes, of
Mhm.
course, we promote best practice and we'd love for everybody to keep their kid rear facing as long as possible. But there are still other safe ways to transport your child, and that's okay.
So it's
Um,
definitely safer to have their legs, like, my oldest has really long legs, and she's kinda looks like this sometimes in the car,
yes,
so that's safer
yes.
than their head, you know.
Yeah, that's a good question too. All these are such great questions. So I hear that a lot. In fact, I just heard that from a caregiver that I did a seat check with. She
Mm.
was like, "Oh, but their legs are going to get too long, and then I'll have
Yeah.
to turn them." And I was like, "That's really common that caregivers will think that, and they'll be like,
Mhm.
oh, that looks uncomfortable to
Yeah.
me, or like, what if their legs break, right?" So, truthfully, for most typically developing kids, it's not uncomfortable for them. They're like super bendy. I mean, I'm sure you've seen your kids bounce off
Mhm.
and get right back up and do the next
Yep.
crazy thing that they're going to do, right? It's not
Yep.
uncomfortable for them unless they have like a medical condition. It's typically not uncomfortable. They can put their legs, crisscross applesauce up the back of the car
Mhm.
seat, dangling over the sides. That's all fine. Also, and this is often news to a lot of folks, we really, and by we, I mean the community and like emergency doctors, EMS, safety folks, don't see a lot of leg injuries for rear-facing kids. Believe it or not, we see more leg injuries for forward-facing kids because what happens? Their legs fly forward and they can hit other things in the vehicle, which again,
Oh.
okay, it's pretty
Mm-hmm.
easy to fix a broken leg.
Yeah.
Um, but that's
But not
that's
best.
the
Yeah.
reality. That's
Right,
the reality,
right.
right? We always
Yeah.
say it's easier to fix a broken leg than a broken
Mm-hmm.
neck.
Mm-hmm.
So you want to keep them rear facing, let their bodies mature, and then turn them forward facing. And
Totally.
yeah.
Okay, good. And then moving to from, so you stay in that forward facing, you're over 50 pounds. When
Mhm.
is a booster seat introduced?
Great. So yes, so in the Babyark, you can rear face up to 50 pounds, or 49 inches, and then all the highest forward-facing harness weight on the market for any seat is 65 pounds. That's as much as you
Okay.
can forward face to. The other thing to
Okay.
keep in mind if you have, an older kid that is taller, right,
Mm-hmm.
is that like we talked about, those harness straps have to be coming out like this when they're forward facing in a harness. So if they have a longer torso or they're a taller kid and you start seeing those straps sneaking down below and the headrest is all the way up, they've
Mm-hmm.
outgrown it. Even if they haven't reached 65 pounds, even if they haven't reached the height, the standing height limit, they've
It's
outgrown
not
it
safe
if it's
anymore.
starting to sneak down. Okay, so
Got it.
any of those things, height limit, weight limit, or the straps start dipping below their shoulders, then they need to transition to a booster seat.
Okay.
Um, and you can do it before that. I would just The wisdom in the community is that typically you want to wait until about 5 to 7 years old before you transition to a booster.
Mm-hmm.
I have a I have a 5-year-old, and I can confidently say that at 3 and 4 years old, he was not ready to sit appropriately in a car seat for the entire ride, or I'm sorry, in a vehicle seatbelt
Mm-hmm.
only for the entire ride. So, as my CPST friend Emily says, let the harness make the safe choice for them.
Mm-hmm. That's right.
Keep them upright, right, until they're
Mm-hmm.
ready for that responsibility of
Mm-hmm.
using the vehicle seatbelt in a booster seat.
Do
Yep.
you
Mhm.
like the booster seats that have a back, or do you like the booster seats that are just the seat?
So they both have different functions, right?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, they work the same way, like for crashes, but typically we'll recommend a high back booster, those ones that have the
Mm-hmm.
back, for kids who have just graduated out of their harness because it feels more like their car
Secure.
seat.
Yep.
It
Mm-hmm.
helps remind them to stay sitting up because they can't do crazy stuff like this when there's a
Mm-hmm.
back, right? If you have a car sleeper, it gives them a head wing to rest their head
Mm-hmm.
against. So it can be a little bit ease that transition between the harness and just being in a vehicle seatbelt. And then older kids, will typically prefer something that's lower profile, that
Mm-hmm.
doesn't look like a baby seat, right? So that's when you'd probably go for that no back booster. It's
Okay.
easier to travel with as well, of
Mm-hmm.
course. You can just pop that in the overhead bin. Of course, you can't use the booster with the seatbelt on the plane because you need that shoulder belt, and planes
Yes.
don't
Right.
have them.
Right. Right. Okay, so someone in the chat said, I heard from a friend that putting the car seat in the middle of the car is safest. And do you
Mm,
have any tips for ensuring safety if you need to put multiple car seats in the back?
excellent questions. So a long time ago in the CPST curriculum. Um, I was just at a conference and we like looked back at old versions of the curriculum of what we were taught. This
Mm-hmm.
was actually in the curriculum maybe like over a decade ago that,
Okay.
put the seat in the middle seat or there was some guidance there. So I understand why that's out there in the world. And
Mm-hmm.
technically that middle seat is or can be the furthest from any potential point of impact. But as probably anybody who's gotten into a vehicle recently knows, those middle seats are not like the seats on the sides, right? A lot of
Mm-hmm.
times they're much more narrow. Sometimes they have that little hump. Sometimes there's like a
Mm-hmm.
little bump in the floor underneath them. Sometimes the vehicle seatbelt is weird in that spot. All of that to say, it can often be really tough to get a good installation there. A lot
Hmm.
of this I hear from expectant parents at the seat check events that I volunteer at.
Mm-hmm.
And they're like, well, I want to install it with latch because that's easier. And sometimes it is easier. But most vehicles don't have latch there in that center seating position.
Right.
And some vehicles don't let you borrow those other two latch anchors from the other positions, and some car seats don't let you borrow them, and they both have to agree on that, right? So
Mhm.
they'll end up, you know, having to do a seatbelt install there, which maybe they don't prefer. So what I always tell them, because they're always feeling like stressed out about that, like, what's the safest thing to do? The safest place to install your car seat in your vehicle is where you can get the best installation and where you can use those additional safety features that you paid good money for. So, like
Mhm.
Babyark, for example, we have rigid latch. You can't borrow with rigid latch because it's at a fixed length, right?
Mhm.
Uh, we also have a load leg, right? And some vehicles may not allow the use of that on a bump. The load leg might not go short enough to accommodate that
Mhm.
little hump there. Um, so if I, have a caregiver come in and they're like, well, I want to put this in the middle seat and it's a Babyark or another car seat that has features like rigid latch or a load leg, um, then I would just let them know that, we can give that a try. Totally.
Mhm.
We can do a seatbelt only installation. We can stow that load leg. But if we can get a good solid installation using all of these additional safety features in an outboard seat, that's going to give you really good protection, right? Like at that
Mhm.
point, like you're sacrificing safety features to put the child in the middle when you could be using the full featured nature of your car seat. So that's kind of the guidance that I give caregivers. And of course, it's their decision, and I'll help them do whatever they need to do as long as we get a good installation. But I do encourage folks to, use the car seat in a place where you get the best installation and you can use all of those features. Um,
Yeah.
oh, for multiple car seats in the back, if you're talking about a three across situation, that can be tricky. Or even
Mhm.
if it's maybe like one or two car seats, but you have like one or two other like adult humans back there.
Mhm.
It can be hard, especially in a smaller or narrower back seat. You want to make sure that if you are trying to fit three of anything across, that your car seats are narrow.
Mhm.
So you want to like this, the Babyark is about 17 inches wide. That is considered a narrow car seat. There are others
Okay.
in the market that are a little bit narrower because that's like one of like their primary features is that they are narrow for three across, right?
So
So
you're
if you're
talking like looking for a slim fit something or a slim
a slim
something. I
car
feel like,
seat, a
yeah.
narrow car seat. Those are
Okay.
all good things to look for. Look for something
Mhm.
slim, something narrow, 17 inches like the Babyark or less.
Okay.
That can help with three across.
Mhm.
Using vehicle seatbelt to install instead of the lower anchors can also help because with the vehicle seatbelt, you can kind of move it on the vehicle seat a little bit
Mhm.
to get a little bit more space for other car seats, whereas those lower anchors are kind of at a fixed location, right? So
Mhm.
that can help a little bit, but ultimately, if you're having trouble with this, just know that technicians sometimes have trouble doing it too in different vehicles. Reach out to a CPST and we can help you troubleshoot. We live for that stuff. So,
Yeah. Right. Oh, that's awesome. Okay, so I have a couple of my own questions,
hmm
but before we get to that, travel and road trip safety before
hmm
hitting the road for, whatever amount of time, 2 hours, 12 hours. Um, Safest long drive tips you have,
Yeah,
rental car seats, if what are your thoughts
sure.
on those? And any
Love giving
common
my thoughts.
travel mistakes that we can avoid?
Yes. So I can and have spent 45 minutes just covering this one topic. So I will condense it
Wow.
down for you guys. I've done a webinar on travel with car seats and all that stuff. So I'm gonna give you the
Mhm.
Cliff's Notes version.
Yeah.
But yeah, there are definitely some, best practice guidelines here. So a few things. Let's talk about the road trip stuff first. When you're planning a road trip, so generally speaking, everyone, babies, toddlers, big kids, adults, we want to get everybody out of the vehicle about every 2 hours for 10 or 15 minutes, right? Stretch your legs, go to the bathroom, eat some food,
Mhm.
get everybody out and get a break. Now, is a cop going to pull you over if you've been driving for 2.5 hours with an infant in the car? Like, no, of course not. They're not going to do that.
Mhm.
If you have to drive 3 hours because that's just the stretch that you have in this trip and there's no place to stop before that, it's going to be okay.
Mhm.
Right. But the big guidance here is plan stops ahead if you're doing a long road trip, longer than a couple, 2, 3 hours, right? Plan those stops, and that way it'll already be in your itinerary. You've already planned for it.
Mhm.
Don't just soldier ahead and drive for
Yeah,
12
right.
hours. Like I remember those drives when I was a
Mhm.
kid. There was no
Yeah.
stopping.
We're not stopping. Yeah.
That's right. We're not getting
Yeah.
out of this car. Like
Mhm.
that's not the way of the future, friends.
Yeah, right.
So definitely do that. Find a place to get gas. Have a nice lunch. Charge up your EV. Do what you need to do. Um, Make sure that you are bringing car safe entertainment for the kids, right? So we want to avoid large, heavy toys, objects that can become projectiles and fly around in a crash. You want to avoid stuff that attaches to the car seat itself, like those infant toys that dangle from the handles. We don't want any of those. All manufacturers prohibit their use because they're not
So
tested that way.
interesting.
Yeah, so please don't attach anything to your infant car
Wow.
seat or any car seat.
Yeah.
It's just not safe to do. It's aimed right at their face too, so we don't want
Mhm.
any of that stuff swinging at them.
Yeah.
Um, and we don't want anything that goes around the car seat. I see a lot of influencers kind of talking about, oh, this activity center that we bought and it straps just right around the car seat, gives the kid a table. And I can see why that would be appealing. I totally get it.
Sure.
However, we don't want anything to be strapped around a car seat. And what we really don't want is all of those like projectiles attached to your child, right? Like all of their like crayons and pencils. I saw one photo
Mhm.
that had a pair of scissors in the basket and I was like, oh no,
Or
please
do you
don't do
feel
that.
the same way about car seat covers, like for keeping infants warm, the ones that like go over the top,
Yeah,
since that technically goes around it?
there's a lot of chatter about that.
Mhm.
Generally speaking, you don't want anything that goes between the child's body and the harness. I'm gonna
Right.
call out a specific brand. So the JJ Cole Bundle Me is one that we frequently see at our seat checks. It has that like soft like
Mhm.
panel that goes like right, it sits right inside of the car seat. Um,
Mhm.
And that is a common one that people are gifted at baby showers. They show up with it.
Right.
They're like, oh, this will keep my baby warm. But actually, it's just adding another layer of stuff between their child and the harness, and that's not safe. So you don't want anything like that. Another thing to consider is if you're using even like the shower cap style ones that kind of just
Mhm.
go over, and there are
Yep.
some manufacturer made ones, which, go ahead, do you.
Mhm.
Um, on a long trip, babies and toddlers, they are not as good at regulating their body heat as we are.
Mhm. Right.
So their body heat can skyrocket like really quickly. So if you have a cover zipped over them, they can get
Mhm.
overheated really fast. And if they're really young, they can't really tell you about it. Be like, Mom, I'm sweaty, right? They'll just
Yeah,
be
right,
sleeping
right.
in there. So for a long trip, I would just suggest something that the baby could toss off themselves or that you could yank off really quick, a
Mhm.
blanket, something like that, rather than a cover.
Okay.
Um,
Yeah, that's really good
that's
to know.
my angle on that. But
Yeah.
so some car seat safe toys that I love for toddlers and babies, like stuffies, O-balls, those
Mhm.
silicone poppets are great. Water Wow books, Wiki sticks, those felt busy boards. Like my 5-year-old
Mhm.
still plays with his felt busy board and
Oh,
his
yeah.
poppet. Loves that stuff.
Mhm.
Magazines or like soft books, crinkly
Mhm.
books, all that stuff. Those are really great for the car. I know that somebody's going to be thinking to themselves, what about the tablet? What
Yeah,
about
right.
the
That
iPad?
was
And
my
I
first
totally get
thought.
that. Yep, I know it. I know it. I've been there too. I've done
Yeah.
road trips and sometimes, that's what
It's
happens.
just
So
yeah,
this
right.
is what I'll say about that, right? CPSTs don't make rules about stuff like this. We give you education so you can make an informed decision. Could that tablet or iPad become a projectile in a car crash? Yes, it
Yeah.
absolutely could. Could you get into a crash because your children are both screaming at the top of their lungs and you're trying to drive the car and it's distracting to you? Yeah, you
Yeah.
absolutely could. So sometimes you just have to kind of weigh those options, right?
Mhm.
Like that can be trickier,
Yeah.
right? Because you're trying to make those choices in the moment. But if you know that they're just going to scream for 3 hours and you're going to be like really distracted, choose the lesser of two evils if that's what you need
Mhm.
to do. I
Mhm.
won't be judging you. I'll be glad that I will have not a distracted driver on the road driving with me.
Do you find that they have those things that go on the headrest that like can secure it? Is
Oh.
that or like secure a phone, or do you think like nothing on the headrest? What are your
So a
What's your
couple of
take?
things. One which has basis in reality, which is that some vehicle manuals say things like don't put anything on
Mm.
the vehicle seat
Hmm.
because they have those advanced airbag systems, and that can throw off those systems and make them think that
Yes.
the person weighs more or weighs less or whatever it is, and the airbag won't deploy correctly, right?
Very
So if your
interesting.
vehicle manual says something like that, please don't put anything,
Hmm.
especially a heavy tablet, right, dangling off of the front driver's seat. Like we want you to be protected in a
Right.
crash. So that's the first thing.
Hmm.
Second thing is that those accessories are not crash tested. And I know that because there is no federal standard for crash testing them. So even if a
Hmm.
company says they are crash tested, those third party manufacturers, there are no standards. So they could just be, I don't
Interesting.
know, throwing it at the ground and they're like, ah, I crash
Sure.
tested.
Sure.
Yeah. So those are my
Interesting.
two cautionary things, right? Like again, I
Hmm.
can't tell you what to do. I don't make the rules. But those are two guidelines that I would think about.
Yeah, definitely. I did not think about the headrest. So, thoughts on rear view mirrors? My sister is
Mm,
expecting, and she just asked me about that. And I was like, I see a lot of conflicting things online, but I'll find out. And
yeah,
then when to take the headrest out when you're installing. Would you ever take the headrest out?
sure. So good question. So for those baby mirrors or the car seat
Hmm.
mirrors, they're like everything in car seat safety, it's nuanced, right? There's
Hmm.
almost no black and white here. There's a lot of gray area. So I'll give you some more education, then you guys can make your informed decisions. So
Yeah.
the general guideline is best practice is not to use a mirror or one of those cameras that has the monitors for a couple of
Interesting.
reasons. The first number one reason is actually because it causes distracted driving because you
Hmm.
are looking either in your rearview mirror at your
Hmm.
baby in their mirror, or you have a live stream of your baby on your dashboard playing the whole time you're driving,
Right.
which can be really distracting. Your baby's cute. Evolutionarily, you want to look at them. That's
Yeah.
adorable,
Right.
right? Like they're doing something funny back there, whatever.
Hmm.
So that's number one reason. It causes
Yeah.
distracted driving. The number two reason is, again, these are accessories that have not been crash tested. Now, there
Hmm.
are one or two car seat brands that do have mirrors that they've crash tested with their seats, in which case,
Hmm.
again, do with that information what you will. If it's sold by your brand and they say it's okay, then do it, do you.
Sure.
But these third party accessories, mirrors, are not crash tested because, again, there's no standard for crash testing them.
Mm.
So they could potentially become a projectile. We don't know because they haven't been crash tested. We don't know. Um, so that being said, that's the information that I provide caregivers. And then I will also say, I am also a parent. I am also a parent that has anxiety. I did not use mirrors. I just kind of white knuckled my way through it. And I was okay, and everybody was okay because I knew that the car seat was installed correctly and was reclined
Hmm.
appropriately, and I knew that that was going to keep my baby safe. My baby was also, like, neither of my babies were medically complicated, so they didn't have any additional things to think about. And I know that that's
Hmm.
true for some caregivers, right?
Right.
So if you are at a place where you can't drive without being able to see your baby, or there is some kind of medical consideration that you have to be able to see your baby, at least
Hmm.
intermittently, in a mirror, um, and you're like, I need some kind of solution for this. I understand. What I would say is look for a mirror that's lightweight, not really
Hmm.
hard heavy. Look for one that's soft sided, right? Not the like hard plastic, but something that's
Yeah.
kind of soft, right? Look for one that has four straps that go all the way around the headrest. And then
Hmm.
mount that mirror on the headrest next to the baby's car
Oh,
seat
yeah.
instead of right in front of them, and then just angle it in if you can. So those things can, again, I can't tell you what to do. I'm not
Hmm.
the caregiver, right? But those things could potentially help mitigate any potential issues. So best
That's
practice,
very
don't use a
helpful. Yeah.
mirror. You don't really need one. If
Hmm.
you personally have to have one for whatever reason, those things might help.
Yeah. That's very good advice. Yeah. And then taking off the headrest. When would
Oh,
you
right.
ever do that?
Yeah. So first of all, again, I'm going to be that person. Read your vehicle manual.
Hmm.
You'll find out there whether your headrests are even removable at all because some of them are not. Some of them flip down like this. If
Mhm.
anybody owns Chrysler Pacifica in the third row, those headrests flip down like this. Other vehicles do that too. So take a look in your manual and see what is in there. It will also give you guidance. A lot of vehicle manuals say something to the effect of if the headrest is interfering with the installation of a child restraint, a car seat, then remove the headrest and store it, right?
Okay.
And that's for the vehicles that do allow you to remove the headrest.
Mhm.
When we will typically see that is not when they're rear facing, but when they're forward facing, because
Right, 'cause it
sometimes that
pushes
car
it.
seat shell can, yeah.
Mhm.
And you'll see sometimes guidance of like, okay, if the car seat shell is like this, which a lot of them are, and then the headrest is like this, and then you can't push up. There we go. So like a lot of them will
Yeah.
have a headrest like this, and then you can't push the headrest and the car seat up high enough because it's the vehicle headrest is interfering, right? So
Mhm.
then that would be a situation where you'd remove the headrest and then you'd be all set, good to go. But if you have a
Mhm.
fixed angled headrest like this, you might have trouble. You might need to get a different car seat.
Okay. That's good. Very good to know.
I know that's not really a definitive answer, but again, go
No,
see
it
a local
is. Yeah.
PST. We can help you out. Absolutely.
Yeah. I think I think people probably don't know how much their manuals and stuff actually like answer their questions. At least I don't. So I need to go find my
There's a
car
lot of
seat
answers in there,
manuals.
but you do have to read first.
Right, right, right. Okay. So if anybody else has any more questions, feel free to put them in the chat or unmute yourself. Um,
Oh, I did
but
want to, because you mentioned this earlier, but so while people are typing in their questions really
yeah.
quickly, um, rental car seats.
Oh,
So
yes. Yes.
no CPST that I know recommends renting a car seat. Please
Hmm.
don't rent a car seat. The rental companies, don't have the best track record of maintaining those car seats correctly. They may be washed incorrectly.
Hmm.
They might be stored incorrectly. They might be expired. They might be crashed and you don't know it. They might be really dirty. A lot of the companies, I did some research on this just for my own knowledge. A lot of the
Hmm.
companies only stock, and the techs that are on the chat might know this, the Costco Sonera Next, which is a great travel seat, but it has really low limits, right? It only goes up to 40 pounds forward facing in a harness. So if you show up at Hertz or whatever rental car company, and you ask for a toddler seat for your kid, and your kid's 45 pounds, still harnessed, and they
Hmm.
hand you a Costco, you're out of luck. And then
Right.
you're like, I guess a booster, but your kid's 4 and not ready. So we always, always recommend traveling with your car seat. Best practice, again, gold star best practice, take that
Hmm.
car seat on the plane with you, install it on the airplane seat, as long as it says, approved for use in airplanes on the little sticker.
Hmm.
Install it on the airplane seat. Your kid rides in there. You have your hands free for snacks and going to the bathroom. They have a comfortable place that's familiar to them, and they can just ride in there, and they'll feel like, oh, I know what this is. I feel okay here.
Hmm.
Maybe they'll sleep, and then you get some peace and quiet. If you can't do that for whatever reason, you can't install the car seat on the plane. If maybe it's not approved for use on airplanes, um, check the car seat, bring it to the airport, check it, gate check it, put it in its box, put it in a padded, you know, carrier or box, and
Hmm.
check it to your destination so that you have a car seat that fits your child and that you know how to install when you get to your destination. So
That's
that's
really good advice. Man, I
that's
wish I
my
had
that's
taken
my
this
advice.
course 5 years ago.
Well, you're here now. Everybody's safe now, so now you
Yeah,
have all
right.
this
We're
information.
learning. Yeah, we're learning.
That's right. That's right.
This was yeah, this was so informative. Brittany, thank you so much.
Of
So
course.
many insights that you just like don't even think about. Car seats are such a stressor, I think, for all
Yes,
parents. And then
they can be.
you're on top of 95 other stressors. So it's so
I
nice to
know.
have some. So tell us again where we can find Babyark and
Yeah, so you can find
what.
us on Instagram. We are at Get Babyark, and I am on Instagram as the Babyark CPST at Babyark CPST. Our website, babyark.com, has all kinds
Mhm.
of great information, including like information about our safety features, advanced safety features. You can read more about rigid latch, about our load leg,
Mhm.
about our easy zip off fabrics, about our
Love it.
our safe coil, which helps absorb those crash forces, our proprietary safety technology. So you can read about all of those things. And the good news is that if you're looking for information about safety features, The Babyark has all of the currently available industry standard safety features on the market. So you can
Wow.
come to our website, read about all of them because we've got them all.
Wow, that's amazing. Um, so if there's one takeaway from today, it's a properly installed car seat is one of the simplest, most effective ways to keep your child safe, no matter if you have mirrors or wherever you're going. Um, so double checking the details in the manual can make all the difference.
That's right.
So I want to thank Brittany. This was amazing, and Babyark, and let's keep the conversation going inside Augie. I know there's always a lot of car seat questions. So if you ever have any car seat questions, we can get you in touch with the right people.
That's
So I
right.
hope
Happy to
everybody has a
answer.
yeah, I hope everyone has a great rest of their week. Thank you guys so much. Thank you, Brittany.
Yeah, of course. Thank you.
Bye.